Last Monday was my first Journal With Me stream. And I kind of wanted to continue that because I just found it like really, it was relaxing for me. Because I could kind of dive into what I usually do. But it was also kind of nice because I like sharing my process. And I usually do a YouTube video about, what I'm currently using journaling wise, planning wise, etc. But it's curated, right? So it's edited. And a lot of times I don't share some of the details about what I'm writing about or the actual words that are on the paper, just because it's kind of personal and I don't know if it's of any interest anyways. So, but in doing this kind of stream where I can journal and, write about memories, do memory keeping, I'm hoping to kind of, encourage you to do the same. If you're into journaling or memory keeping, take out your books as well and do it along with me. Or it's just kind of like an insight into how I do it. So maybe it sort of gets you thinking about your process as well. So that's kind of it. And then today, actually, what I wanted to do a little bit differently than last week is I wanted to show you how I sort of set up my planner for the week. So just kind of how I get my week started. So we're going to do it together with sound this time. It is Monday, right? So I'm going to turn off my camera because just so I can focus, and then you can see a lot more of my desk that way too. So I can spread things out. But first, I just wanted to quickly explain my planning process. So I use a Plotter A5 as my desk planner. So what that means is it's open out on my desk and I can refer to it throughout the day for, high level projects that I'm working on and sort of the steps that I need to do. And then also just see the week at a glance in terms of appointments and my schedule and things. But then I have an everyday carry or a wallet purse or a wallet planner or a purse planner, a planner basically that I can carry around with me and have with me so that I can refer to it throughout the day for tasks and just things that need to get done and schedules and things like that too. So that's what this TN passport is for me. It is basically, everything condensed. So I have 3 inserts in here that I use. This one is a sterling ink booklet. I got this last year. I got a couple of them last year just to see what they were like, and I thought I would use them this year for scheduling purposes. So I've set it up for the first 6 months, basically laid out a weekly schedule. Let me see if I can. So it kind of looks like this. I've just drawn in lines. So it's 2 weeks in one layout, 1 week per page, basically. And then in this column, I just write down events or appointments. And then in the second column, I write down reminders for the day. So if it's things that I kind of need to make sure that, related to my kids or family or things like that, that goes in there. And then I also have an insert that I'm repurposing. It's an undated monthly insert from Traveler's Company. And that is sort of like a high-level monthly scheduler for me. It is undated, so I had used it for a few months while I was traveling last year and the year before. And then I just stopped using it. And so I'm kind of repurposing it for this year for the first 6 months, just to kind of see how I feel about having a monthly scheduler. And then the meat and bones really of my everyday carry is this insert. It's a lightweight Traveler's Company insert. And I used this last year briefly for writing down quotes. And so I did a little bit of painting in here. And I just wrote down quotes that I liked from a book, The Pivot Year, which actually I will talk a little bit more about this book, but for the purpose of explaining this insert, I had just sort of tried out the paper. It's a lightweight paper. And then I stopped using it. And so for this year, I decided to repurpose it for sort of daily logging, and rapid log journaling. So what that means is basically I set up a weekly page, so to-dos for the week, and then I set up a page per day. And it's kind of a hybrid bullet journal style where, I just do rapid logging daily, just all my tasks that I want to get done, but that are like not super, I don't really write down things that might take me like 5 minutes or less to do, just because those are the things that I prioritize. So I usually get them done right away. And then when I sit down and I sort of plan out my day, I can write down the things that I want to get done. So my intentions, basically. Then I also, throughout the day, I do rapid log journaling. So I just write down things that happen. So just events as they happen throughout the day. And because I have this with me, it's easy to sort of pull it out and just quickly log things as they happen. And then that is great reference for later when I sit down to journal about my day, or when I sort of transfer information in other books. It's great to have this as a reference because my memory is not that great. So it's kind of nice to have something like that. You sneaking in a Monday stream? Yes, I am, Bart. I tried it last week and I thought, you know what? I'm going to try streaming twice a week. But Mondays are kind of the journal with me, plan with me stream. So that's what we're doing. And then Wednesdays are going to be more fountain pen related or painting and art, creating art related. So what sorts of things do you quick log? Like errands? Yeah, quick log things that I might have to do like at home. I do sometimes write down chores just because it's like, if I don't write it down, I'm probably going to do it another day. And sometimes it's like, I have to do it today. Don't forget. But a lot of times it could be like admin stuff, places I need to go, things I need to get done for the kids. Things like that. So, like I said, it's because this isn't a lot of space. Like it's fine if, for 2025, I was using a week size. So that's fine because you have more space to sort of write down all sorts of things. But because I'm working with a passport size, I'm sort of experimenting with writing less, but writing things down where I feel like if I get those things done for the day, I feel like I've accomplished my intentions at least. And that's how I'm kind of coming at it for this size. My memory is pretty, so quick logging sounds good. So the other thing, my memory sucks. My memory is not the best at all. So what really helps is writing down not only like tasks that I just have to get done for the day, but also what helps is just, like I said, throughout the day I come here, I quickly write down events that happen. So if I go places or if I talk to people, things that I saw, and they're kind of prompts in terms of like journaling or highlights of the day. They're kind of prompts in that when I look back at it, I'm like, oh yeah, I did this. And then I can journal about it later in terms of like my thoughts, reflections, things like that. But what I find usually is when I do memory keeping in my memory keeper, and I kind of look at a high level weekly view, I always have a hard time remembering what day things happen. So specifically, when I saw this or when I did this, a lot of times it sort of gets jumbled into like, well, it was sometime last week. And so this is like a quick sort of, you can refer to this as a quick, it happened on this day, and then continue memory keeping that way. So yeah, a pocket bullet journal. It's kind of like that, right? So this is a passport size, but it's the same sort of, where you kind of have like a notebook or something that you can keep on you, or carry around or things like that. And I love that I can just throw it into my traveler's notebook cover, and then that way I can have a few inserts along with it. And the way that I have it sort of in here is it sits within this craft folder insert, also from Traveler's Company, right? So the folder itself is within this elastic, and it also contains this monthly insert, which is missing a few pages, so it's not as bulky as it could be, I guess. And then in the back, I just have a few stickers that I use, which actually I'm going to use now, so I'll show you. And then I also have this Sterling Ink passport booklet, which I like because it's actually pretty slim, and you get, I think, 90 pages, something like that. 94. 64. 64, so that's pretty good too. It's like a Traveler's Company insert, but it's slimmer, just because it uses TRP. So that's how I've set it up. And I like that it's in a craft folder because I can just slip it out if I need to write in it. Because a lot of times if you're using a TN or rings or something like that, you kind of think, it's a little inconvenient to have to take it out or open up the rings, take out pages, put it back, etc. So this is kind of a quick way of, you can slide it in and out of your TN cover if you wanted to. So the way I set it up usually is week by week. And that way, because it's blank, so really if I wanted to skip a week, it's fine. Or if I wanted to use a couple of pages to take notes about something, or maybe if I'm traveling, there's more to write down during the day, then I don't feel like I need to stick to the one page. I can just keep going. And so usually either on a Sunday night or Monday morning, what I do is I set up the current week. And how I do that is one page is dedicated to the weekly to-dos or weekly task, weekly log if you're into bullet journaling. And I just use these. I had these already, so I use what you have, right? Use what you have in your stash. So I had these, and I thought, what a great way to use these to-do stickers. And of course, you could just letter them in yourself if you wanted to, but it's kind of fun to use up stickers too. And these are washi strips or washi stickers. So, oh, there we go. So it's actually really thin. And I just stick it on. And I use a TN pencil board as a guide because on the one side they have the grid, which you can see through the lightweight paper, which is amazing. So I just use that as the guide, put the to-do sticker, and then I use these weekly stickers, or I'm using these weekly stickers, which is just the week number. And these are from TheCoffeeMonsterzCo, so really useful. And this is also the washi sticker sheet. And so the difference is that it's not going to bulk up your book too much when you're using a washi paper sticker versus the standard sticker paper, which is a little bit thicker. And so obviously if you're using, weekly stickers or something like that, then you're going to start to see a little bit of a bulk, which is fine. But so that's basically what I do. I just put the to-do header and the week. And then what I do is I review the previous week. And just these are kind of high level things that I really wanted to get done for the week, but it's not such a big deal if they're not done. I just kind of move them into the following week. For things that I have to do, obviously I get them done, but when it's like projects or things that sort of can be moved to other weeks in the month, I just kind of migrate them as I want to get them done. And then, so that's for the weekly list or the weekly log. And then I do daily pages. So 1 page per day. And basically what I do is I just write the header. And then when I get to the day, I write down sort of my intentions for the day in terms of tasks that I want to get done. Like a catch-all. Yeah, kind of. Or an everyday carry kind of setup. So for this week, The header I'm going to write with a Tombow twin tone, and this is a blue-black. Again, the lighting is not so great in my room, but we're just gonna go with it. So I basically use the grid guide sheet, and I just write a letter per box. And that's one way to write on a blank sheet, but also keep it in line. And I'm kind of one of those people that if I'm going to write something on a plain paper, it's going to be at an angle somehow. It's not going to be in a straight line. So for me, using guide sheets is really helpful. So today is the 12th. I like these markers because they dry relatively quickly, so you don't have to worry too much about smudging. The Avo Gamer, thanks so much for the follow and welcome in. So basically, that's all I do. Oh, Layla Weather, thanks so much for the raid. Welcome. How are you and what were you up to today? Hello, raiders. I'm going to turn on my camera really quickly. Hi. Welcome in. Thanks so much for the raid. I'm Corolla. On socials, I'm from Corolla. And I'm a stationery enthusiast. So if you're into stationery, you're in the right place. If you're into fountain pens, planning, journaling, any of those things, that's kind of what I like to talk about and share as well. So today in my stream, I'm planning and journaling for the week. I'm also memory keeping for the things that happened last week. So I'm just going to go through my process of how I do that. And you can either do it along with me, which is kind of fun when someone else is doing it, or you can lurk, you can watch, you can chat, you can ask questions. Welcome. I hope you had a good stream, Layla, and I hope all of you had a good weekend and that you have a great week. So that's what we're doing today. So sit back, relax. It's very chill. I'm going to turn off my camera just so you can see more of my desk and I can kind of focus on what I'm doing. But welcome in and thanks so much for the follows. So I'm setting up my planner for this week. Welcome. I love your setup so far. Oh, awesome. I'm a bit weird as I just carry my A5 dot grid everywhere. Yes, yeah. Why do you carry your notebook? I'm going to grab my... So it's funny you say that because this is my planner. Like this is my catch-all. Everything is in here. And this is my A5 plotter. It's rings. It's a ring binder. But it's A5. And so I know exactly what you mean about bulky and like trying to carry something that's huge. It's not that huge, but trying to carry something that's huge around and like trying to update it and everything. And that's why I wanted to have a system that was sort of like an everyday carry. I can carry it around, I can take it out, I can write in it and not feel like people are watching me and judging me like, what is she writing down? And so for me, having something in a traveler's notebook passport is really handy, just because I can sort of have the gist of, what I need to get done for the day, but also feel like I'm not lost. I'm not lost for the day. So I did use the plotter A5 last year as well. And that was kind of the meat, of everything. That was like my sort of fundamental planning or planner. And I did all of my planning in that. And I did find it kind of hard when I was traveling or, going on road trips and things like that, where it's like you don't want to carry, a bunch of bulky things with you. And yet, I have my emotional support books that I need with me. And so I would still carry my plotter around. And I just felt like for this year, I wanted to try having something that was a little bit easier to carry around with me. So that's why I'm trying out this passport size insert because I kind of like the A6 size as well, but I find that I think passport or pocket is kind of that size that is so easy to carry around, throw into any purse or bag that you have, and pull it out. Whereas A6 for me is still just a little bit, a little big, just a little bit. And so I've been using this passport insert style of planning for a few months now. I kind of started in November or December last year. Actually, I did it in July and August of last year while my kids were off school. And so I wasn't home a lot just because I was always out with them. And so I did use it during the summer, and I found that I really enjoyed using a passport sort of system for journaling and for planning. And so I figured I would use it for, as long as I felt comfortable in it. I always, recommend if you find a system that works for you for whatever reason, it could be your situation, maybe you're not at home a lot, or it's just kind of portable to have with you, then lean into it, because there's obviously a reason why that size or that system is working for you. And, don't question, don't try to change it, just kind of go with it and use it for as long as it makes sense for you. And so that's what I kind of did. I was like, you know what, for some reason, I really love this passport size system, especially for the nitty gritty of like just the things that I want to get done to be productive for that day or organized or, feel good about what I got done. And so I'm really leaning into it this year, just really trying this out. And that's why I'm using a lightweight blank page insert, because I can sort of move around the layout if I wanted to. And so far this seems to be working. It's pretty minimal in terms of aesthetics. And for writing things down, I'm just using a mono drawing pen from Tombow in the 02 tip size. So it's pretty fine. But I'm just, logging things as they come. And then if I feel like sort of circling or highlighting things because they're important, or if I'm referring back to this, I want it to sort of stand out to me, then that's okay. And then I have little stickers also that I'm using. Most of them are from TheCoffeeMonsterzCo. Helen, who is the owner of the Coffee Monsters Co. and the designer, she draws all these things by hand. She's local to me, so it kind of makes sense too. But I love her art. So these are like icon doodles that are really useful. And then there's like holidays and other little things. But I threw this is actually a sticker release page from the Travelers Company sticker release insert. And so I just pulled out kind of a leaflet or a page of that. And that just kind of goes and sits in the back. And that's kind of the setup there. So technically, this is ready to go, except that I do want to review my weekly tasks or weekly sort of ongoing list of things, and then sort of jot down things for this week. And then I just move on to Monday, and that's it. So throughout the day today, I'll just write down things as they happen and things as I need to sort of get them done as well. I used to use a ton of 3x4 line notebooks that are, yeah, $1 each. But I write too much not to carry an A5 anymore. Yeah, I know it's the sizing. Like sometimes, you know, last year I used the A5 because of that. Like it's just sometimes you have to have more space. You know, you have a lot of things going on, or you want to write a lot more, and that's totally fine, right? Like just work with what actually works for you. Like why try to cram in all the things into the smallest size possible if it's not working. So that is the weekly setup. And then as I go throughout the week, I just kind of add things. And then, like I said, throughout the day, I sort of log things that are happening. Oh, I can't put this away. The whole reason why I wanted to do this on stream is because, let me just move this. So the things that I write down during the day that happened, those are the things I refer back to when I'm doing my journaling or when I'm doing memory keeping. And so one of the things I wanted to do on stream today, or on Mondays in general, is review the things that happened the previous week and do some memory keeping in my Hemlock and Oak journal, or in my Hemlock and Oak planner. This is the weekly and daily undated A5 or large large size planner. And I'm using this as my memory keeper. So basically what that means to me is this, because it's like such a big hefty sort of textbook, it has all of the pages, all the monthly, all the weekly, and enough daily pages for the whole year. And everything is undated, so you know you don't have to use all the pages if you don't want to. But I've decided that I'd love to sort of capture my whole year in terms of highlights and things that happened, sort of reflections and looking back on this year as I go. And so that's how I'm planning on using it. In the monthly is going to be sort of high level monthly highlights, and I'll do that at the end of the month. So when January is done, I'll sort of fill in the monthly spread. And then the weekly spread is kind of where all the memory keeping happens for me. Because I like to see my week as a whole, I like to kind of see what happened throughout the week. The weekly spreads are what's important for me when it comes to memory keeping. So in this one, it's a vertical layout, which I kind of like because some things I'll do in time blocks. So things that happened, you know, in the morning or in the afternoon. And then in between, I sort of fill in things that aren't time related. Like it doesn't really matter when it happened during that day. It wasn't like, you know, a meeting or whatever, an appointment or something like that. So that's where I kind of spread it out, I guess, just so it's not all concentrated in, you know, an area. And that's why I kind of like that vertical layout too, is because you can memory keep based on the time stamps, or you can just disregard them altogether, right? And then just use the column as where you're going to put things that happen throughout the week. So, and this is late, but let me just... It's a late shout out, sorry. But shout out to Layla. Thank you so much again for rating. And thank you so much, raiders, for sticking around or, you know, just taking a look before you run. It's all good. So for memory keeping, I did this last week on my stream, but because it was sort of a half week of January, that's when it sort of began. I only did a few days. So for this week, I'll do the full week, and I'll kind of show you how I fill up the week, I guess. And I wanted to try, last week I used a fountain pen to fill it in, which, let me see. So I used the Esterbrook and TheCoffeeMonsterzCo collab Estie. And I will use that for my daily spread. But for the weekly spread, I thought, just because it takes it doesn't take a long time to dry, but you can't touch it right away. And I do want to use a fine liner just to sort of make sure that I don't accidentally smudge anything. So we're going to use a fine liner. And then after we do the weekly, or I do the weekly, I'm going to do a daily journal spread. This is basically what it looks like, how I've been doing it for the past week or so. The first day, I kind of didn't know what to do. The second day, I kind of thought it through, and how I'm sort of approaching these daily pages is for drawing practice, as well as journaling using a prompt. So for drawing, I'm using this book as reference. It's called Flower Color Guide by Taylor and Michael Putnam. And it is basically just like a coffee table book of floral or photos of flowers. So floral inspiration, basically. And it's really, really nice. There's a variety of different flowers, different colors to go through. And what I'm doing is just randomly sort of going to a page and practice drawing the flowers using the reference photo. And then just picking out colors in terms of Tombow dual brush pens. And so using markers to kind of create a colorful drawing. And then for the journaling piece, I'm using the pivot year, which I tried to sort of get through in the past couple of years, and I haven't been able to. So this year, my intention is to get through this book. And it's interesting because each day is sort of a different prompt or a different sort of passage that's encouraging, and it's meant to sort of make you sort of reflect on your journey for that year. And I'm using it as a prompt. So each day I'm looking at, the passage and picking out a sentence or two to hand letter using a brush pen. And then doing some journaling, sort of reflecting on it, thinking about what kind of thoughts come to mind when I read that. What do I think the message of it is, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's just kind of low key, just, doing a little bit of writing. And for that, I'm using the fountain pen. So, just, if you're kind of wondering like what you can journal about, if you don't want to write about your life or your day, or it's just like, I just want to write about something, what can I write about? A great idea is to use a prompt. There are lots of prompts you can find online in terms of just getting yourself to sort of think, getting your mind to, think about stuff, reflect, do some introspection maybe. What are your thoughts on different topics and stuff? And then, or use a book and just, write down a little piece of what you can sort of think about. And then continue it. It doesn't really have to be anything big. It doesn't have to be anything, it doesn't have to be too time consuming. It could just be something light, something nice that you want to sort of think about for the day. You can do it in the morning or afternoon or evening, any time of the day you want to go in and do some writing. You can always use prompts and other things. Do you create your own prompts? I don't create my own prompts in terms of like what to journal about, because I like to sort of just write about things as they come to mind. But I do like this idea of using a book that has like sort of daily, like here you could see it's like day, each sort of message or prompt or passage is for a certain day of the year, I guess. So you can go in order or you can do them randomly. But I do like using, inspirational or encouraging sort of messages and prompts to think about it. So I thought, having it in a journal is kind of a fun way of filling up some space, especially because this is a large book. And if I was to write, my personal thoughts on here, I don't really want to do that on stream. So this way I can kind of write about something that fills up the space, but also it's just, a time to for all of us to kind of reflect or think about certain things. So that's how I'm using the daily pages. And because it's undated, it's very low pressure. It's very low pressure. I haven't done this every day. As you can see, January 9th was my last entry. So I didn't do it over the weekend, and that's totally fine. I'm kind of expecting that I won't be able to do it on the weekend. I have kids, and our schedules don't always allow me to schedule in time for myself in terms of like journaling or things like that. Especially, just to sit down and do this with quiet time is like, I have to do it during the week or, when I know when I know I can have that time. So during the week works for me. So first, let's do memory keeping. I like memory keeping when I can use all of my stickers and washi tape and all kinds of accessories and stationery stuff. And for that, I have sticker books with little stickers that I use often. So I kind of have this on my desk. It's sort of ready to go. And then I also got this sticker book, also from TheCoffeeMonsterzCo. And I like it because it's horizontal and it is sort of portable. It's not a huge size, so it's manageable. And what I did for last week is I just went through all of my daily logs, and I pulled out highlights of each day that I wanted to add into my memory keeper. So something that I want to sort of live on and be able to refer back to at a high level, at least. And so I went through those highlights and I pulled out some stickers that kind of corresponded to each of the events. So they're related in some way. And then I used these weekday stickers just to organize them a little bit. So for the purpose of this stream, this will make it a little bit easier for me to kind of go through each day and write down what I need to in terms of memories. So for Monday, and this is something I wanted to stick on because it's a recipe, so I wrote it out, and this will go here, somewhere here. But for Monday, we were back to school. So the kids were back to school. And let me just get organized. And so one thing you can do with timelines or timestamps is you can use color codes or time blocks. And so what I have is a key of colors that are correspondent to, certain things. So for example, yellow, my Tombow dual brush pen, yellow means there was school, so I don't have to write it all out. I can just simply kind of color code it. So if I was to do 8, And if I do that for every day, then I know that, you know, the kids were at school. So anything that kind of happened in that time was, you know, while they were out. And that's kind of a nice way, instead of writing down, you know, school or work or, you know, things like that, that makes sense for you. I kind of like just color coding it so that if I'm looking at it, I know that's what it means. I'm going to try, yeah. I was going to try turning off the lights because I really don't like the, I don't like the shadow it's casting, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. So for Monday, I'm going to use this sticker. It's really, really cute. It's when you're packing a lunch. So it could be, you know, related to anything that's like you need to pack your lunch either for work or for school or whatever. But I think that's really cute. So there's that. And then for writing down the actual event or highlight, I'm using, let's see. I'm using a Tombow Fudenosuke hard tip brush pen. I love using these pens for headers or for just hand lettering in general. And then for writing the details, we're going to use a mono drawing pen 03. And they'll dry really quickly, so they're kind of useful to use in that way. So what I usually do is I put down a sticker and then I just hand letter the highlight or sort of what the gist of it was. And then with the fine liner or with another pen, I usually write down a little bit more detail if I want to, or I leave it as is, because if I look at it and, you know, it's pretty clear what it is, then I just leave it. So here, just do. Back to school. So this is a great way of practicing hand lettering, or, you know, just being intentional with what you're writing down. Take your time, really enjoy the process of lettering. I find it very relaxing as well when you're taking your time to sort of think about doing it in a stylistic way, right? So you have like the broader downstroke, lighter upstroke, and that gives you that sort of calligraphy style, modern calligraphy style of writing. I think I'm just going to leave it actually as back to school. And then the next thing is did a stream for planning, so I'm going to put that down somewhere here. Just write Twitch stream. And then the last thing. Hi, Bye Apple Tater. How's it going? Happy Monday. I hope you had a good weekend. And then the last thing is I saw a bear across the street. It's not super rare because we have a lot of wildlife around us. But every time I see a bear, across the street means there's a neighbor's house there. And so this big bear was kind of wandering around for a little bit. not hibernating, but maybe looking for food. We see them more often in the spring when they're out of hibernation or they're coming out of hibernation and they're looking for, we have a lot of wild blackberry bushes around us, and that is sort of set aside for wildlife to munch on. And so often we see bears or deer. Deer is very common. They'll come out and, pick those berries and look for food and stuff. So it's very fun. Yeah, bears. Oh, you went to a planner meetup in SF. That's so cool. I hope that was fun. Sounds like a lot of fun. It would be too. I like the scene there. Yeah, that's awesome. So we're moving on to Tuesday. And on Tuesday, I was decluttering and cleaning my closet by pen boxes. Yeah, I got rid of a bunch of pen boxes that I've kept, fountain pen boxes, that I've kept for years for no reason, really. Except that I guess I just thought, maybe I need to hold on to this. But these are like TWSBI boxes and things where it's like, I don't need to, I don't need them. Get rid of them. They're sitting in my closet, and I thought, you know what? They need to go. And yeah, so decluttering. I think starting a year off, just having a clean, organized space there's just something about it that's sets you up for, sort of leaves you open for more, creativity, for more ideas, figuratively, right? So just having a bunch of clutter around just makes me feel closed off to feeling inspired, I guess. So decluttering is a great way of starting the year and the week. Declutter. And that was pretty much my Tuesday. That took up more time than I was expecting, or wanted to take up. So, but that's okay. So on Wednesday, I streamed a painting session. Twitch stream. Painting with inks and watercolor paints. And that was really fun. It was a lot of painting, a lot of water. And then the other thing was we tried out this new blueberry banana muffin bites kind of recipe. So I'm going to do baked. And they were interesting because the recipe was very, very simple. And it was literally blueberries, mashed banana, 2 eggs, peanut butter, and then throw it in the oven. And I wrote, I think next time I'd like to try honey or something to sweeten it up a little bit. And it was good, but you know, they're not like muffins where you're using flour or anything like that. So it was interesting. It was definitely like a quick sort of, you know, if you just wanted to have something for breakfast or add to your meal, it wasn't really that sweet. So I'd love to try a little bit of honey or something like that. So actually, I'm going to add this here. So there's my recipe. I like to include recipes or things that I'm referring to in my memory keeper on the page if I can. And then I add accessories or washi tape or something like that. This one's really cute because it's from TheCoffeeMonsterzCo, but it's baking related and cooking related. So you can add this as sort of a little bit of interest for recipes or things like that. So I'm just gonna add that at the bottom. Very cute. So we did that. And then let me see, the other thing was I recorded an episode over the holidays. I recorded an episode of Desk Chatter, which is a YouTube live series with Alexandra, Kari, and Marina from the community, and they usually just kind of chat about what's on their desk or pens, things like that. So I recorded an episode with them over the holidays that went live on Wednesday. And that was really, really fun. I don't know if I shared that on I may have shared that on my YouTube channel. But if you go to Alexandra, I think her YouTube channel is Alexandra's Art Insanity, something like that. But you can see that, or if you're in the community, you may have caught these episodes. They're really, really fun, great YouTube live, and just kind of talk about, things that are happening in the community and in the pen world too. So that's fun. And on Thursday, I'm just gonna put this. This is like a wild desk scene. Things happening all over the desk. I got word that I was approved for an in-person workshop that's coming up in a couple months or so. So yeah, that just means that I have to prep and get myself sorted, get all the things together, work on what the project is going to be that we're going to do in this workshop. So more to come on that. I don't think they've announced it yet, so I'll wait until they do that. before I talk about it. And I also have to get myself organized, so yeah. But lots of work ahead. And then for this, I'm going to write... my husband and I were watching Knives Out, which is Daniel Craig mystery movie series, I guess. So there's a new one that just came out recently-ish, called something, A Knives Out Mystery, Dead Man Standing or something like that. And so we watched that, and it's great. And so then we're like, oh, yeah, remember the initial sort of movie that sort of started off this series? It's like a murder mystery series. And it's called Knives Out, and that came out in like 2019 or something like that. And so we watched that, and it's a great movie. It's a great watch. Lots of celebrity actors, sort of high-profile actors and actresses in that one, which is really fun. So it's a great story too. I like murder mystery type of, or thrillers, you know, that kind of genre. So it was a fun watch. Oh, there were like 30 people in the front room of Rickshaw Bags. I'm so glad that many people came out. I like that space too. I visited the Rickshaw Bags storefront or warehouse or whatever space last year. No, the year before, I think. While I was in SF for the SF Pen Show, I got a tour and got to sort of walk around and look at it. And yeah, it's such a nice space. I'm glad they've set it up for a meetup, or, you know, having or hosting meetups as well, which is really fun. I find meetups are they kind of get the vibe from, you know, where you're having it, as much as who's there, and, you know, if people are sort of sharing things and hanging out and stuff. It's also that's the space, right, that you're in, and having a nice space for something that's like it's not too high pressure. You don't have to sit and talk the whole time. If you want to just kind of hang out, you know, and do some swatching, or try out different pens and stuff like that. Let's do... So on Saturday, one of my kids had to go to the dentist for a cavity filling, and it was her first cavity, so she did really well. It was really interesting because I didn't know, you know, I don't know how kids are going to react to certain things. Sometimes they're okay with it, sometimes they freak out. But sometimes it works out and you're like, wow, I don't know how you did this. I thought you were going to have a meltdown, but you didn't. So, win-win. And then I'm going to put here, we had a rainfall warning all weekend. It's still going on. It just means that we have to be very careful. There could be some flooding. downed trees and wires. Sometimes power outage. So just gonna keep an eye out. Regardless, we still get out and do things. So sometimes I don't have stickers that are specific to the event itself. For some reason, I don't have like general sports stickers. Not that I'm very sportsy, but yeah, I was kind of looking to add something that was like general sports related. But sometimes when I don't have it, I'll pick out a sticker that's, you know, either some, you know, related to kids, or in this case, you know, lion. My kid's just roaring into the gym to play some sports. It's a fun way of using up stickers that are kind of a general purpose. It's not like I'm going to see a lion in my backyard, but I'm not going to go to the zoo every weekend. But when I have these kind of stickers, they're kind of fun to use for, you know, related to a different event or something like that. We just did the same with my first grader this morning. Oh, Inky. I hope it went well. A week ago, we had these huge rainstorms, and I was in the middle of a... Oh, no! Your Wi-Fi went out, and your phone was out. Oh, yeah. Something flooded somewhere. Also turned out. Yeah. I know, it's, you know, you kind of think, like, we get a lot of rain here. I'm on the West Coast, so, like, you know, Pacific Northwest. We do get a lot of rain. And it's good in a way that, you know, that's why we have lush greenery, right? Like we have a lot of trees and it's great for wildlife and things like that. But at the same time, when it's like in such a concentrated area and in time, yeah, it doesn't add up to good news, unfortunately. And we had the same thing happen in a few weeks ago, before the holidays. I think it was a week before the holidays or something like that. And we had a ton of rain and the power went out for 17 or 18 hours overnight. It was really cold. So, you know, it's just not fun. It's like you have to think about, and damage wise and stuff like that. It's just so inconvenient and damaging and not super fun. Ooh, I added this one because I had these shower stickers that I got a couple years ago or something. I guess it's sort of like, you know, self-care, take a bath or whatever. I don't know why I had them, but I was like, I just need to use them every time I'm talking about, you know, or there's like a memory that's associated to bath or shower or something like that. And so I had to change shower heads because my husband's not really like, he says he's not that great at like home DIY and home improvement stuff. But then every now and then he does something. I'm like, okay, I'm really impressed. You changed all the shower heads, which, you know, is kind of a big deal, but also it's not that hard. Once you do one, it's like, okay, now I can do this. So just changing different appliance items and things around the house, it just needs to be done. You know, so I wanted to put a sticker or a stamp actually, because where is it? And this is why I like my reference, my log, my rapid log journaling as reference, because then I can just like, wait, I triggered a memory, but I forgot when I actually got it. I think it's Thursday. Friday. So I like using stamps as well. Acrylic stamps, I just throw them on the acrylic block. And this one is one that I don't really take off because I use them often enough. It says Happy Mail. And then this one is just 5 stars. So I use it for book reviews, or, you know, when I'm reviewing something. I just kind of keep this so it's ready to go. But I love the Happy Mail stamp because then I can just kind of stamp Happy Mail when I get it. Because I'm testing out this paper, this is the Archivist paper from Hemlock and Oak. It's a specially formulated paper for them for this year. So I'm kind of testing out different things on them to see how the paper handles it. So stamping is one of those things, because we love stamps. And this, so I like using Versamagic stamp pads. They're the chalk, Versamagic chalk stamp pads. And this one's Midnight Black, and I actually haven't used it that much, but so I don't know if it doesn't look dry, but it's all good. Sometimes, depending on the type of stamp pad you're using, if it's oil-based or dye-based, sometimes it could ghost or bleed through the page if you're, you know, if your page is thin. And this one seems to handle stamps just fine, so that's kind of nice. Especially this stamp pad, because it's chalk ink, so it's not as, it doesn't seep through your paper like an oil-based stamp pad might. So I got my giveaway prize. If you also join Brad's streams, then the Pen Addict, if you don't follow Brad, the Pen Addict, make sure you do. He streams 3 times a week, also has a podcast and all of the things. But he likes to do giveaways on his Twitch stream and on his blog. But yeah, I won this notebook, this lined notebook, on one of his streams, and it's with Takagami paper, Takagami natural paper. It's a Musubi notebook, and it's lined, and it's really interesting. I haven't had a chance to test it out, which we're going to do on my Wednesday stream this week. So if you're around, or you want to watch a replay, if you can't join in person, I'm going to test out this paper, because it is very interesting. It's natural paper. It feels pretty smooth. Yeah, we'll test out some inks, maybe do some floral painting or floral art on it, do some drawing, something like that. So that's kind of fun. Trying out new paper, new notebooks. Is that the difference that the others are oil-based? It could potentially be, like, for example, these ones, the Shashihara. I always have to think about the pronunciation. Shashihara. I think they are really, really saturated stamp pads. And they're really good. I love these. But the problem with them is that they tend to, depending on the paper that you're using them on, they tend to seep through a little bit. So I tried that one in here because I tested a bunch of pens and inks and other things. So this is the, let me see if I have a bigger, okay. So I used that one on here and the Versamagic chalk. I'm sorry, the lighting is not that great. But I did use it here, and This is a small stamp, so it's not, maybe it's not so indicative of how the stamp pad behaved. But even for that small of a stamp, you can see the difference between the two ink pads. Right? So you have like the slightest bit of ghosting, if that, really. Like, yeah, you can see a little bit, but you see a little bit more of the Chachihara. And that one actually isn't super saturated. So if you're putting down a bigger stamp or a stamp that uses more of the ink, then something like this might not be the right one for this kind of paper. So yeah, I usually look to see if it's like oil-based or dye or water-based, or and these ones are generally known to be good for good in journals and planners and stuff. So that's kind of it for my weekly highlights or my memory keeper. And sometimes I go back. I think for last week we kind of did, I just did this. Oh, and I had the holiday, but I just did this. And then I went back and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll put some fun washi tape down. So sometimes I'll look back and I kind of think, okay, maybe I'll put something else. The other thing I didn't do, which I'll do now, is I didn't label the days because it's undated, and also the month. So let's do that before I forget. And it's kind of just a random week, though. I'm hoping to do this pretty much for every week of the year, unless I'm not, or unless I'm traveling or something like that, and then I might not, but we'll see. We'll see when we come to it. And then the other thing I wanted to do was include the daily journal page on the bottom. So if I did a daily journal entry here in this section, because the way this book is formatted is that all of the monthly pages are in the front, followed by all the weekly pages, and then all of the daily pages. So it makes sense for an undated book that you have it that way. But that sort of means that you're flipping back and forth if you're looking at a weekly spread, and then you're getting to the daily pages, especially if you're using this as a planner, like it's intended to be used. I'm using it more as a memory keeper and journal, but if you're using it as a planner, you kind of have to remember, you're looking at your weekly schedule or whatever you're using this spread for, and then you have to sort of flip through your daily pages to figure out where your day is. So I like to have the daily page noted at the bottom. And if I don't have it noted, the idea behind it is that there is no daily page corresponding to that one. So for example, January 9th would be the last page for the week, because I didn't do it for the weekend. So 195. I did all the other days, so that's good. And then we'll do the dates here, which was 5th. So we have all the dates, we have all the days, we have high level highlights of the week. So I am happy with that. So if at any point I'm kind of, either I can sort of flip through those weekly pages and kind of look back at the highlights of the week, or if I'm thinking, you know, when was it that we did this XYZ thing, I can always sort of flip through the weeks, and for the most part, they will be in there. Yes, those go through. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there is a difference, right? We're like, they're all the same, aren't they? Yeah. I'm testing things in my planner right now. Yeah, definitely, especially with like new paper or TRP or you know, paper where you're just like, ooh, is it okay? In general, I like to use back pages for all of the testing. This one I tested like everything. Usually I don't test everything. I just test the pens and inks that I'm going to use in the book, right? Because that's what I want to make sure handles really well on the paper. But it's, you know, sometimes it's kind of good just to break in the book a little bit, get a feel for the paper, try all sorts of different stationery or pens, inks on there, just to kind of try it out. And then you can kind of go from there. Because sometimes even like paper that I'm used to, sometimes I try my, you know, usual lineup of pens on the paper, and then I think, you know what, I don't feel it. It doesn't feel right for whatever reason. And so sometimes when you have a plan to use certain tools on paper, sometimes when you actually go to do it, it feels different, or the paper handles it differently. And yeah, it's kind of nice to test it out. It's a good discovery. The ink and Volt paper seems to be holding all my stamp inks well. That's good. That's good to know. Yeah. Because not all paper can handle saturated inks. And that's why stamp ink pads are a good test, because they are saturated. I'm switching into Ink and Volt from Sterling right now, so I'm testing things. Ink and Volt, what is it? Specially formulated paper? I'm testing things on the whole first week of the year, yeah. Good reference too, if you tested somewhere where you can always refer back to it. Okay, so we're gonna do a journal spread or daily spread while we're chatting. And like I mentioned before, in case you missed it, how I'm approaching the daily pages is not in a memory keeping kind of way, because the weekly section is for memories, and the daily section or the daily pages are more for just kind of having fun and being creative. And the great thing that it is undated is that there's no pressure to do it every single day. So the way I'm using these pages this year is practicing drawing flowers and botanicals based on reference photos, and also doing a little bit of journaling. So there's 2 books that I'm committed to using this year or referring to this year. One is a flower color guide for flower references for drawing, and then the other one is the Pivot Year by Brianna Wiest, and it's just for prompts and reflection. So for the flower color guide, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I'm just going to pick, usually I kind of do this randomly, but today let's go with something like this. What is this? A peony. Let's do something like this. It's not too hard in terms of the shapes that are in this photo and the colors. So I'm going to pick out some colors that I can use for this, and then I'll show you the process of how I sort of go from looking at a reference and then drawing it out. I don't think it's special paper at all. Okay. It's only somewhat reliable with fountain pens if they're not too inky. All right, gotcha. Or if you're using finer nibs, probably too. Okay, so let's see. For this, picking out the colors, the color reference I'm using is from Tombow. So we're going to use this blending palette. If you haven't heard about this, or if you don't know what this is, it's basically like a laminate sheet or laminated sheet. And it works really, really well for if you want to paint or mix colors. And you can use dual brush pens on here, so you can and I'll show you all this, but on this side though is a reference chart of all the markers and the colors and the numbers. So this is a great reference for if you're kind of like looking at something, or if you're planning out, you know, your palette for your planner, your journal or something like that. And they have all of the colors that you can pick from, basically. So I usually look here and I pick out a couple of, usually actually it's like 3 or 4 colors to create a palette of for the drawing. So I'm going to go with probably something like this, a dark color, a light color, to kind of create these highlights or where it's blending in. And then I choose 1 or 2 colors for the stems and the leaves. So we're gonna go with, and I don't want to color match too closely, like it really is just something similar to it. So I'm gonna go with 126, 837. So I'm probably going to do something like this. So these 4 colors. Mainly because I do like the sort of softer pinkish hue, and this is kind of for the darker tones. And then we'll do a couple of greens for the leaves. So keep it interesting. Keep it fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this right beside my book or space. And then what I do is I add these 4 colors onto my blending palette. So if you don't know that you can do this with brush pens or markers, especially the Tombow dual brush pens are really, really good for blending and mixing them. And I highly recommend that you try this out. It's really, really fun. And it's just another way of getting more out of your markers than just coloring or directly transferring color onto your page or your paper. So I add all the colors, and then I use this Colorless blender, N00. A lot of times, one colorless blender is included in the marker pack if you're getting a Tombow set. And they add this in there because you can use this for blending those markers. So there's different ways you can use this colorless blender. It is essentially like a dual brush pen, except it has no color. So it is still soft, it's moist or wet or whatever weird sort of adjective you want to use. But pretty much it's ready to go. Like it's ready to pick up a color and transfer it to your page like a marker. So any color will do, and it's self-cleaning in the way that you can sort of scribble on your laminate sheet or on a soft cloth or a piece of paper and get that color off, and then it's ready to pick up a different color. So I like using the colorless blender for getting the sort of soft watercolor painting kind of effect. And yes, you can just use the marker and color on the page, but I'm exploring getting a different effect on paper. And one of those ways is by using this colorless blender. So it's just a different way of getting, putting color on paper, but it looks a little bit softer than if you use the marker directly, because obviously if you're using a marker, you're coloring in something. So it's going to look saturated and it's going to look like the color that you're using. But when you're transferring it with a colorless blender, you can see that it's a lot softer and you're getting sort of this inconsistent application of the color, which is similar to if you were painting, right? So wherever you sort of put down the initial color is where it's very dark, and that's like the true sort of red that I chose. But wherever else you sort of continue, you can see the color is transferring from the tip to the paper. And as you go, it will sort of get rid of that color so you can pick up a different color if you wanted to. So we're going to do this main flower, and we're going to do a bud as well. So all I'm doing is similar to when I do abstract painting. I start with the outline first. So for me, that's just doing the general shape of what I see. And then I go in and I add some details. And the details are what's going to kind of give us a little bit more clues as to what we're looking at. This part is fun because you're essentially just putting down, a bit of color and drawing some shapes. It doesn't have to look exactly like the reference or what you're seeing. But I kind of want to add in like petal-like shapes. And when I draw over it, you won't see too much of sort of where the lines are. You'll kind of see color, and then we'll draw in what the shapes are. So there's that. And then some pink, which sometimes I like to lead with I actually mostly like to lead with the lighter color first, but this red is actually not as dark as I expected it to be. So I don't think we need a lot of pink. Then once the color is down, so you can either sort of keep coloring on the blending palette or your sheet, and that will remove the color from the tip, so you can use it. You can use it again. I think what I'm going to do is, because it's not that dark when I'm transferring it on, I think I'm going to add a little bit directly on the paper. Just because I do like this really darkness, this dark color of it. And then a little bit here. I don't like to spend too much time on it because then I switch into perfectionist mode, which is not, I don't like to dwell on things too much. But just kind of do it and then I move on because otherwise I could spend a lot of time on things and we just don't have the time for that sometimes, you know? Sometimes we just have to move on. So the green, I'm just gonna add a little bit of green here. And I'm gonna start with the light color first because I'm going to layer in some of the dark on top. So we have that. Now let's add a little bit of dark. And again, I don't need it to look exactly like my reference. It's more so just to give me an idea of what the shapes are, what it probably looks like, or what it looks like, but what we can sort of represent it as in our drawing. And what I'm looking for more are basic shapes and an easy way of capturing this so that next time when I'm doing this from memory or when I'm doing abstract art, what I'll end up doing is I've built up some muscle memory that will give me the basic sort of shapes that I've seen before and that I've practiced drawing, and I can pull from that. And while it won't look exactly like this, because of course my mind, you know, conveys it in a different way, it will look similar and also gives me an idea of what to start with and what to base it on. So that's why it's helpful to practice drawing from reference photos or what you see in real life so that you can sort of build that muscle memory. Very pretty method of using these Tombows. Oh, thanks. It's Haley. Yeah, it's just a different way of using, you know, the markers that a lot of us already own. Or if you have a few and you're kind of like, what should I use it for? There are different ways of using them. That's fun and creative, and it's very low key, very, right? Like this, you could just wash off or wipe off with a wet cloth or a paper towel or something like that. Usually I just run it under some water and then set it out to dry, and then it's good to be reused again. So, and I love the reference chart because numbers don't make sense to me. So remembering a color by number, unless I've used it a million times, it doesn't come easily. So for drawing the details, I'm going to use the finest tip, which is 005. Let's put this here. And the reason is because when I draw, I use line drawing techniques to draw a little bit of detail just so that it looks a little bit more, or, you know, closer to what I'm actually seeing in the photo. and I wanted to look a little bit more detailed than it is right now. But I use the 005 because, and I use that in all of these, is because I don't want to take away from the color. And I don't want to, you know, draw a thick line over it where that's all you're kind of seeing is like a dark black line. So I use the finest tip, and I also want to swatch the colors that I used just as a point of interest, but also to note down what the numbers were, because I'm gonna have a hard time finding these colors if I need to, unless it's one that I've used a lot. So let's do a quick swatch at the bottom and then note down the numbers. So this is 703. And sometimes when I'm just kind of coloring and having fun with these colors, I find there's certain colors that I'm drawn to, and then I want to use again. So this is a good way of kind of exploring different colors. Similar to fountain pen inks, I like to swatch them and remember what the names were that I used, so that at another point in time I can always come back and remember what colors I used. So I usually wait until this doesn't take too long to dry. It's just sometimes when you're using the Colorless blender to pick up color off of a blending palette, it's similar to when you're painting. So especially if you're layering color on color. On paper like this, you have to wait just a little bit so that you're not like smudging or, you know, letting the paper dry a little bit is helpful. So, and then I go in with my fine liner and I just add a little bit of detail, and I do that really fast. It's just following the outlines that I've created here and adding a bit of line, directional lines, and that way it makes it look a little bit more 3D, I guess. A little bit more real life and natural too. And it breaks up these sort of big blobs of color that when you kind of look at them head on, you're thinking, okay, that could be, you know, a flower, but where are the petals? And so when you add a little bit of detail, and like I said, just, you know, a very fine line, I think works good, works well. Because you're not taking away from what's there. You're just adding a little bit of detail. So for me, adding directional lines or curved lines sort of helps my eye see, you know, where the petals are, what direction they're facing, or in terms of leaves, like some are sort of curled inward, like in this reference. They're not all perfect and, you know, splayed outward like a leaf would. Some are curled in, some are kind of coming out from the bottom of the flower. And it's kind of interesting to draw them in like that. So you can see I kind of work fast. And I don't stop to correct anything really. I like using white space as well to make petals and other details sort of look bigger, or give them a little bit more space, a little bit of space to breathe. And with the leaves, you can draw in veins or other kind of details to make them look more like leaves, but also just a point of interest. Like having straight lines is a contrast between having all these curved, uneven lines. So you can add some lines to sort of mimic the look of leaves or the veins on leaves. And then that sort of contrasts with these curved, uneven lines of flowers and petals. So, but like I said, you don't have to make it look, at least for me, I don't like to make it look too close to the reference, because you could spend hours trying to do that and I don't want to. So if I can just pull out the basic shapes and what I think it sort of represents, with practicing petals coming out and folding in, the different lines that might make and look like, I think that's good practice. So that's kind of it. And then I write down what the flower is, because that too, I don't always remember if it's something that maybe I haven't heard of, or something like that. This is actually titled Black Swan. That's really pretty. They're really fine point. if you're an extra fine fountain pen user, or needlepoint, I should say. That's what that fine point is like. Then I use the Fudenosuke hard tip. Like I said, you use it for a lot of different things. I use it a lot. So today's Jan 12th. And it's a Monday. So we have that. And then I started this, I think, midway last year or something like that. So instead of starting from day one, I'm continuing where I left off. So I did day 70. So this is going to be day 71. So yeah, in this book, this is the Pivot Year by Brianna Wiest, and every day there's a different passage, a different sort of piece of writing that is encouraging but also reflective and makes you kind of think about things, think about the state of, where your life is headed, your path. You can think about it creatively as well, how you're sort of practicing creativity. And I just find it kind of interesting to take a look at that, do a little bit of journaling around it. And like I said, it fills up the page, but it also gives me just a moment to think about general life, instead of always thinking about what's happening and the events that are taking place and stuff. And this sort of, and I think any prompt, really, like prompt related writing, is meant to sort of get us thinking about the bigger picture, or a general wider sort of topic and our thoughts around that. And that could be pulling in your values, it could be pulling in just your perspective, your point of view. And a lot of times it's interesting to look back on that and have that somewhere as sort of a place for you, or a space for you just to free write about stuff. So if you find it hard to journal about your life all the time, maybe you don't have a lot going on, and that's fine. Or you don't want to. And if that's the case, then it might be helpful to sort of pull yourself out of having to think about, I need to write about something specific, and either use prompts or use a book that sort of gives you, something quick to read, or something sort of to reference and creatively write about it or write your opinion. This is your space, so use it how you will. And for me, I like to stay creative by practicing different ways of being creative. So if that's drawing flowers, then I like to practice drawing from reference versus my sort of usual go-to, which is just abstract sort of coloring and drawing and painting and stuff, where I'm not using a reference photo or I'm not sort of basing it on anything specific. But it's kind of nice to have a space where I can, I'm looking at something and I'm just trying to capture it on paper. So it's kind of nice to have space for that. So that's for today. I think I'm going to do the journaling a little bit later. I'll just sit down, read the passage, and I'll write a paragraph about it. And yeah, so I think last week we did this one, January 5th, and that was the dahlia. So since then, I've done different flowers, and I'm kind of pushing myself not to do the same type of flowers because I think I definitely lean towards a certain shape of flower, and trying to do something that I may not have seen or that I see often in my life is interesting as well, because I can't base it off of something that's attached to a memory and just looking at the reference photos. So that's kind of interesting as well. And then trying to do different colors, because this is kind of I love this palette of pink, red, soft hues. I don't do a lot of painting or coloring with yellows and oranges and stuff. And so trying to push myself to do that as well is interesting. And then once I do a few of these, I'll have enough to kind of look through and reference and think about what worked well, like what I found comfortable, what I enjoyed drawing, and how I sort of used the different colors and how they blended together and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to look at that. So I think that's it for now. Yeah, so that's the peony. Black swan. Very, very pretty. And I'm going to try and do this every day during the week at least, because I know I can sort of set aside some time in the morning to practice this. And then next Monday, my plan is to stream again, unless something comes up, but hopefully we'll be able to stream again and fill out our weekly memory keeper spread. I might actually add more washi or something else here as well, just to add a little bit more visual and some more color. But that's how I kind of treat the memory keeper as well, is it's kind of an evolving historical capture. So just because this is what the week looks like doesn't mean I can't add to it, or stamp things, or add put some more stickers down or something like that. So we'll see how it evolves, but for now I'm really enjoying this paper, which is the main point of using this planner. Is I wanted to really test out the paper and see how it handles putting down a lot of color and different techniques and stuff like that. So really enjoying that. So that's fun. Let's see, 11:30. So I am going to hello. So I'm going to sign off, but if you were able to sort of join me throughout the stream, or if you're watching the replay, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thanks for being part of this community. And I will be back on Wednesday, same time, 9:30 Pacific, But we will play with fountain pens, fountain pen inks. I'm going to test out new paper to me, and see how it handles inks as well. And yeah, and then we'll be back next Wednesday or next Monday and Wednesday next week, hopefully, just to do more journaling and planning and stationery related stuff. So thank you so much, friends. I'm Corolla on socials. You can find me at From Corolla. And yeah, go play with your stationery. Go have some fun. And if you're having a dreary, weathery day like I am here, hopefully, you know, the week sort of picks up and yeah, the weather gets better. But if not, take out your brightest, most fun stationery supplies and play with those. Bring some joy into your life and have some fun. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye, friends.